Imagine this. You can run a 10K, feel absolutely fantastic, have zero symptoms, all while a catastrophic blockage is silently growing inside your heart. Sounds impossible, right? Well, today we're going to unpack that exact shocking paradox. The numbers here are they're staggering. Get this, for half of all men and an even more shocking 64% of women, the very first sign that something is wrong with their heart is also the last. There's no warning, no chest pain, just a sudden, fatal event. And this really gets to the terrifying heart of what we're talking about today. See, your body is so good at adapting, so good at compensating, that it can hide a nearly total blockage. It keeps your blood flowing just fine, right up until the second it doesn't. You can literally feel like you're in the best shape of your life, completely in the dark. So, that's the big question, isn't it? How does this happen? How can something so deadly go completely undetected in people who exercise, eat right, and feel perfectly fine? Let's investigate. Okay, to find our culprit, we've got to go to the scene of the crime, and that's inside the coronary arteries. Don't think of these as just simple pipes. No, these are the critical fuel lines for the body's most important engine. So the heart is wrapped in this whole network of arteries. You've got the right and left coronary arteries, but there's one branch that is particularly notorious. It's called the left anterior descending artery, or the LAD. In the emergency room, we have a pretty grim nickname for it. We call it the Widowmaker. And the reason the LAD is so dangerous is because it supplies blood to the heart's main pumping chamber. Think of it like this. If you block a small twig on a tree, you might lose a leaf. It's a problem, sure, but if you block the trunk, the whole tree falls, and it falls fast. Okay, so we know where the problem happens, but the real question is, how does it form without a single warning sign? And this brings us to a huge biological misconception, and frankly, it's one that gets people killed. It all starts with damage. Things like high blood pressure or even just the stress from decades of blood flow, they act like sandpaper on the smooth inner lining of your arteries. Your body sees these little microscopic tears and sends in LDL cholesterol to act like spackle, patching up the holes. That patch then hardens and voila, that's what we call plaque. Now here is the absolute crucial point. We all imagine this like a pipe in your sink that's slowly clogging up, right? You'd expect to feel symptoms as that opening gets smaller and smaller, but that is completely biologically wrong. Your artery is not a rigid pipe, it's living tissue. As plaque builds up on the inside, the artery wall actually stretches outward to make room for it. It's this incredible phenomenon called positive remodeling. And because the artery remodels itself outward, the channel for your blood flow can stay completely open even with a massive amount of plaque hiding in the wall. The result? You get 100% normal blood flow. You'll pass a stress test with flying colors. And you feel absolutely zero symptoms. So, if the blood is flowing perfectly, what flips the switch? What turns this silent, hidden condition into a life or death emergency? Well, it typically happens in one of two ways. We have what's called a type 1 heart attack, which is all about a sudden rupture. And then we have a type 2, which is more of an energy crisis, a classic case of supply and demand. Let's break those down. Okay, so the most common and the most dangerous heart attacks come from soft, unstable plaque. The best way to think about it is like a little blister that's filled with inflammatory gunk just under the surface of the artery wall. A sudden spike in blood pressure from, say, shoveling snow or some intense stress can tear that blister open. Your body panics. It thinks it's a major wound, and it forms a massive blood clot to seal it off. And that clot becomes a cork. And in just a few minutes, it can completely stop all blood flow. Now, the second type is a little different. Let's take a runner. We can call him Robert. Let's say he has a 50% blockage. At rest, sitting on the couch, his blood supply is totally fine. But when he starts racing, his heart's demand for blood and oxygen just skyrockets. His partially blocked arteries simply can't keep up. It can't supply enough blood to meet that huge new demand. The heart muscle, starved for oxygen, begins to suffocate. And this is why that supply and demand issue is so tricky. You usually won't feel anything, no chest tightness, no shortness of breath, until an artery is about 70% blocked. But here's the kicker. Remember the most dangerous heart attacks, the rupture kind? Well, they often happen in arteries that are less than 50% blocked, simply because that softer plaque is just more fragile and more likely to pop. So if you can't feel it, how on earth are you supposed to find it? Well, this means we have to move beyond the standard tests and start using the right tools to see what's actually going on inside your arteries. Let's be really, really clear about this. Your standard cholesterol panel from your doctor is not enough. It tells you if you have the ingredients for plaque, like LDL cholesterol floating around in your blood. It tells you absolutely nothing about whether those ingredients are actually building up and sticking to your artery walls. So what does work? Well, the first tool is a coronary artery calcium scan, or a CAC scan. This is a quick 5-minute CT scan that looks for hardened, calcified plaque. It's basically measuring your history of plaque buildup. A score of 0 is fantastic, but a score over 400, that means you have a significant amount of old plaque, and you're at a very, very high risk. But really, the ultimate early warning system is a CT angiogram. While a TAC scan shows you the old, hardened plaque, the angiogram can see the artery walls themselves. It's the only test that can find that soft, non-calcified plaque, those dangerous, invisible blisters we talked about, that are most likely to rupture. This is how you find the fire before the whole house burns down. Finding the plaque early is key, of course, but you also have to know the signs of a heart attack that's happening right now. Because in the ER, we have a saying, time is muscle. Every single minute of delay means more permanent damage to your heart. Just look at this timeline. After only 20 minutes of a blocked artery, heart cells start to die, and you can't get them back. By the 90-minute mark, that living, pumping heart muscle is turning into permanent scar tissue. And guess what? Scar tissue doesn't pump blood. So the longer you wait, the weaker your heart becomes for the rest of your life. So what should you be looking for? Men often get that Hollywood heart attack, the classic crushing chest pressure, pain down the arm. But for women, and this is so important, the symptoms can be much more subtle, much more insidious. We're talking about things like a sudden, overwhelming fatigue you just can't explain, shortness of breath, or what feels like terrible nausea or acid reflux. Please don't ignore these signs. The healthy heart attack is almost always a tragedy of ignorance, not inevitability. So what can you do? The key is to focus on what damages the arteries in the first place. Control your blood pressure to stop that sandpaper effect that starts the whole process. Manage your blood sugar to cut down on the inflammation that makes plaque so unstable. And just keep moving to build a stronger circulatory system. And that leaves us with one final thought. We all want to believe we're healthy, right? Especially when we feel great. But what this whole explainer has shown us is that feeling healthy and being healthy aren't always the same thing. So the real question you have to ask yourself is this. Are you just guessing about your health, or do you actually know for sure?